It can't be. I can from no, I think it's
So we're out here on Kent State University campus ahead of Kyle Rittenhouse giving a speech. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you think about Kyle visiting campus?
Well, Kyle visiting any campus is completely inappropriate because he's a murderer, but Kyle visiting Kent State specifically is really just a slap in the face to all of the people who've been mourning May 4th and the history that happened here. It doesn't seem like the university really cares.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that he's a murderer. Some of his defenders would say that he was acquitted on charges. Have you heard that defense of him? What do you make of that?
Yeah, so I have heard the defense that he, because he was acquitted, that, he shouldn't be facing any consequences, but that doesn't erase what he did. And it wasn't a fair trial. A lot of trials aren't, especially when it comes to white men. Yeah.
One of the victims who he said he was defending himself against was actually here earlier today on campus. What do you think about him coming at the same time when Kyle is?
That's really powerful and probably, incredibly brave, because I couldn't imagine being in the same space as the person who attacked you. And then for them to go and spin it that you attacked them and make you seem like you were the bad guy. It's incredibly brave to do that, and I wish them all of the most power and peace that they can have.
There's a long line of your peers here waiting to get in. What do you make of so many students here interested in his speech?
Yeah, I was really not, I was kind of expecting there to be a good crowd, but I was not expecting this size, and it's really disappointing to know that there are so many people who agree with him and believe in his values. And again, that's an assumption. Hopefully some of these people are going in to infiltrate the event, but it seems like for the most part these people are here to support him, and that's really upsetting.
You said his values. What do you think Kyle Rittenhouse's values are?
Well, if you ask me that question specifically, I guess I don't think he has any values whatsoever, especially if you are capable of hurting somebody in the capacity that he did, and in a protest where people were speaking their minds, and it's appalling. And I guess I don't think he has any values whatsoever, probably really traditional ones.
Many people view him as heroic. What do you think of that?
I don't think anybody who takes somebody's life can be considered a hero, especially if they were taken in vain and for no good reason whatsoever. The idea that this was an act of self-defense is really it's inappropriate, and it's a laugh in the face to the legal system and to the victims.
Why do you think so many people think he's heroic?
That's a really good question. I really wish I knew, because it baffles me. I think about that every day, that it doesn't make sense to me. Just because this doesn't align with what I believe in, it doesn't make sense to me that anybody could believe in this stuff. The people that find him heroic obviously believe the same things as he does, and again, it's just really upsetting and disturbing, and it makes this place more violent.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time. Is there anything else you want to mention?
You. No, I really appreciate your questions. They were really incredible and
thank
insightful.
You. There are many people, a lot of your peers here on campus coming to see him. Yeah. Some people view him as a hero. Yeah. What do you think of him getting such a big reaction, and what do you think of the people who think of him as a hero?
I think that they're wrong. I don't think he is a hero. I think that people villainize sects of humanity due to their race, due to their ethnicity, due to their sexual orientation, due to their gender. And because of that, they'll see villains as heroes. They think that Kyle did a service to the country by protecting, in air quotes definitely, the white community and the upper class community, people in power, from the people of America honestly standing up and being able to say what we want in a way that is heard. The protests after the killing of George Floyd and Ahmaud Arbery and countless others during the Black Lives Matter kind of protest boom in 2020 and 2021, we really saw a lot of progress made because of that, and I think obviously there would be a kind of counteract to that. Anytime one side of politics stands up, the other is going to try and stomp them back down. And personally, and I think kind of just logically speaking, I think that Kyle and the side that he represents and the people here to support him are on the wrong side of history, and I think they're doing more harm than good.
Do you think Kyle Rittenhouse is a threat to students on campus, him coming here?
I mean, I think if you give the man a gun and you let him walk around with it, I don't trust him. I'm not going to, make some statement that he's about to come out here with an assault rifle or anything. Obviously, I don't know what he's doing right now. I don't know if he has a weapon or not, and I don't know his access to us as the student body. But I mean, I wouldn't trust him in a situation. I wouldn't trust him if he was out here with us right now. Absolutely not.
Do you think he should have the right to speak on campus if invited?
No, because I think he should be in jail. He killed 2 people.
And again, the self-defense argument that many people say that doesn't mean anything to you because he was acquitted in court.
Yeah, I'm aware that he was acquitted, and I think that there's a level at which self-defense, that wasn't self-defense. Those people were unarmed. They did not wave guns at him.
One of them was armed. Gage Gauche was armed with a gun.
A gun? What gun?
Person he had a handgun. The person who was shot in the bicep who came to campus earlier. So at least one of them was armed.
I wasn't aware of that, but he did shoot 2 people before that person came up, and I think also he was carrying that gun illegally. That's what I was just going to say. He was carrying that gun illegally, and he had no right to act like that. And I think even if you were to say self-defense because that guy who showed up after he had already killed 2 people, he should still be serving time. He shouldn't be here speaking to students, influencing their behavior and their views on people. I don't think that's correct.
Last thing I wanted to ask you about was the Crybaby poster. Can you tell me what it draws inspiration from? And
draw the to Frankie who made the sign. I'm just holding it.
Yeah, absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit about the sign and where you drew inspiration from? And there's another one over here.
So I mean, basically, it's just the iconic photo of him crying in court, which I think is a photo that, if you know who Kyle Rittenhouse is, you know this photo. So it's just a play on that, and in my opinion, he's a crybaby, because if you're going to sit up there and cry over the repercussions of your own actions, then it's tough.
Absolutely.
Womp womp, if you will. Womp womp.
Thank you. Awesome. So we're out here at Kent State University ahead of where Kyle Rittenhouse is going to give a speech. I see you have a "Fuck the System" shirt. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you think about Kyle coming to campus?
So I am a trans individual, and I hold a lot of privilege as a white trans individual, and I've had a lot of my BIPOC friends come to me, and we've had discussions about how Kyle being on campus makes them feel extremely unsafe, and I think that it's Kent State University's job to make sure that their students feel safe. And I think that him being here is giving him an opportunity to spread his hateful rhetoric against not only the BIPOC community, but the queer community as well. And I just think that that is part of my French bullshit. And
do you think he's a threat to the BIPOC and queer community here on campus, the students here?
I wouldn't want to make any claims that he's a direct threat just because of liability reasons.
Okay.
But regarding my personal feelings, I, as a white trans individual with all of my privilege, feel less safe that he's on campus.
There's been a lot made about his right to speak on campus. Do you think he should have the right to speak here, if invited, of course?
So I definitely think that it's very important to protect folks' First Amendment rights. That's not something I would ever try to interfere with, but I think at the same time, within the First Amendment, there is a clause regarding any sort of speech that incites violence, and I think that, like I said, Kyle has a history of incredibly hateful rhetoric, and he's also a known violent man. And so I think that his speech here today, there's a possibility that it could incite violence. I mean, he's committed violent acts in the past himself. So I think that that's why I feel that it's not safe.
I wanted to ask you about those violent acts because in the court he was acquitted on all these charges.
Yes.
Many of his defenders will say that. What do you make that, that in a court of his peers he was found, he was acquitted on these charges?
I think that there are a lot of flaws within the United States government and legal systems, and I'm not going to ever pretend to be an expert on how to fix those flaws, but I think we can all acknowledge that we exist within a very flawed system. And I think that, there have been a lot of other times where the government has made decisions that I have not personally agreed with, and I feel that the decision made within his trial is an example of that for me.
Do you think there's any validity to his claim of self-defense?
I don't really feel comfortable commenting on that portion of it.
There's a very long line of your peers here on campus to get into this event. What do you make of so many students interested in hearing what he has to say?
It mostly just makes me feel sad. I think that, like I said, he spreads this hateful rhetoric, and I think that, people are deciding to show their support for that, and that just makes me sad. And I wonder if they've ever sat down and had a conversation with a lot of the people that they, so vehemently stand against.
Many of his supporters view him as a hero. What do you think of that?
He's definitely not my hero. I would never call him a hero personally. I completely disagree with that statement. From my personal opinion, I do not find him to be anything close to a hero.
Awesome. So we're out here today at Kent State University. Kyle Rittenhouse just finished giving a speech. You have a sign here that says, are you going to kill me too? Can you tell me a little bit more about why you decided to come out?
So this is one of my friend's signs. She let me use it. Well, we're all activists. We're all here to keep Kent State safe because Rittenhouse killed 2 activists and protesters. And Kent State had 3 people die. 4 people die, sorry, that were protesting and trying to help us. And that Kent State just let him come freely, even though, yes, like, they had no say in it. It's illegal for him not to come, so I understand that. I understand it's freedom of speech, but there was a poll that came out, 97% of Kent State students are scared for him to come.
Do you feel unsafe on campus when he came? Do you feel like he's a threat to you on campus? Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I feel like it's a threat because we don't know what's going to happen with protests and with far right because they're all aggravated and it can flip in a moment. We don't know what could happen and what could not happen.
It's not him that's a threat.
Yeah,
it's the
his
people
followers.
he brings.
The bad energy, because we were all here even without the argument and all that. We were just here. Everyone's talking. Everyone's being really civil. Everyone's, if they need water. There's medics here just in case. But
I mean, you see what's going on over here. Like, everyone's just battling.
I wanted to ask you, what do you make of so many of your peers on campus coming to hear what he has to say? I mean, there were hundreds of students here that came to see what he has to say. What do you think about that?
Well, people like Republicans and Democrats, they can listen to what he says, but at the same time, he's writing books and selling a false narrative. You can look up his videos. He went cross state line and shot 2 protesters. Like, he killed 2 people. So, and it wasn't in self-defense. It was an illegal obtained firearm, and also it was against state line. He didn't have to drive across state for this.
I wanted to ask, many of the people who defend him says it wasn't self-defense and that he was subsequently acquitted on charges. What do you make of him being acquitted on those charges?
I think it's wrong, like, just tradition and all that stuff. I think he should have been acquitted because what happens if it was a different race?
You think race had a role to play in his acquittal?
It depends.
I think not race, because he did kill white people, but it was at a Black Lives Matter protest.
Are you saying, so to say, like, if he was a person of color, you don't think he would have been acquitted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
What do you make of people who view him as a hero?
I think that they don't know the full story and that they just might not know.
And why do you think so many people do think of him as a hero?
Because just like the propaganda and all that stuff. What's happening?
Cops telling us to go.
Absolutely.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
No
I appreciate
problem.
it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you too. Awesome. So we're out here today at Kent State University ahead of where Kyle Rittenhouse is going to be giving a speech. Can you tell me a little bit more about what you think about Kyle visiting campus?
I think it is a little hypocritical because this campus, we had people, shooting people at the May 4th Center. And we're having somebody come here who's for gun violence, basically. So it's low-key kind of crazy. And then also, he did it out of almost basically racism. So that's also crazy. You're a very diverse campus. And we have a lot of LGBTQ students. We are very POC, we're aware of with our POC students. So it's why are you bringing somebody like that here? Why?
Do you think Kyle Rittenhouse is a threat to people of color and LGBTQ people specifically, and why, if so?
I don't think he's a threat, actually. But I think he's problematic rather than a physical threat. if he spreads like the misinformation that he's going to be talking about right now, it's going to keep like a whole cycle going.
Yeah. Charges that the courts tried to bring against him, he was acquitted on all these charges. That's what some of his defenders will point to if people call him a murderer. What do you think about him being acquitted on charges?
That's crazy because he did kill a person and he shot 2 people. And when you watch the video, they were not after him. He was just simply doing that it had to be spite and pure racism. It's just crazy. I don't know.
I mean, how would you say it's racist? I mean, he did shoot 3 white people. Does that matter, or is
Maybe he's just insane. Maybe he's just crazy. He needs to go to what's it called? A mental hospital. That's where he needs to go.
What do you think of so many of students here on campus seemingly interested? I don't know if they all support him, but so many students here interested to see what he has to say.
Honestly, I think it's okay, because I'm interested I want to hear what he has to say. I'm always for learning other people's viewpoints because I think it's important that we know. But his viewpoint is obviously out of spite and hate. But I still want to hear it. I still want to hear it.
How would you respond to people who call him heroic?
I don't understand how killing is heroic. I just never understood how taking a person's life can be considered a heroic thing. I don't know. What is heroic about fighting for an amendment? I mean, yes, it was heroic for fighting for some amendments, but bearing arms, that's nothing. That's really nothing to me.
Are you concerned that so many people do view him as heroic?
No, not really. I doubt people. I don't know. Some people do see him as heroic, but I think it's a very small number.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for your time. Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
No, yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you.